Okay, there's really only one more thing in section 5.5. These last sections are not that long. And that talks about raising a power of 10 to another power. Now again, our book is only talking about powers of 10, but any base will work. If I want to take 10, squared, and then I'm going to cube it. So I'm taking something that's raised to a power, and then I'm raising it to another power. Well, what do we mean by cube? We mean take whatever this creature is and multiply it by itself 3 times. That's what cube means. Okay? So we've expanded out what we mean by cube. Okay, and now we know what we mean by square, because we've just done this. When we multiply numbers with exponents, we add the exponents together. So it's just going to be 2 plus 2 plus 2. And we get 10 to the power, oops, ran out of paper, 10 to the power of 6. Okay? Well, where did that 10 to the power of 6 come from? What's the shortcut way to get there? Well, if you see, if I take 2 times 3, I get 10 to the 6. So I'm going to multiply those exponents. All right, so 10 to the 8th power and then raised to the 5th power is just going to be 10 to the 8 times 5, or 10 to the power of 40. So generically presented, 10 to some a and then raised to some power b is just 10 to the power of a times b. All right, and again, our book only does 10, but it could be anything. 2 cubed and then raised to the 4th power is going to be 2 to the 12th power. All right? Pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at example 4 at the bottom of 241. I've got 10 cubed, and then I'm going to square it. 10 cubed, and then I'm going to square it. I'm going to simply multiply the 3 times 2 and get 10 to the power of 6. Same old rules apply with negative exponents, okay? What about 10, this is part B of example 4, 10 to the power of negative 3 and then raised to the power of positive 4. I'm going to multiply the negative 3 and the positive 4 together. That's going to give me 10 to the negative 12. We should always take the extra step to clear those negative exponents out of there, so we'll call that 1 over 10 to the positive 12. Okay, part C has got 2 negative exponents, 10 to the negative 2 and then raised to the negative 3 power. I'm going to multiply those 2 exponents, and a negative times a negative gives me a positive, 10 to the positive 6. Okay? Are we all good there? There's really not much more to that. We'll just work a few more examples. I probably could have snuck this video in with the last one. Let's just work a few more examples just for laughs. What if we have 10 to the negative 3 and then I raise it to the 8th power? That'll be 10 to the negative 24 power, which I'll call 1 over 10 to the positive 24 power. What if I have 10 to the 0 power and then I cube it? Well, what's the rule say? I multiply those exponents together. So 10 to the 0 times 3, and 0 times 3 is still a 0, so it's 10 to the 0, so it's 1. Okay, oops. Let me move the camera, move it up there. There we go. Okay? That's really all there is to it. An exponent raised to another exponent, I multiply. Okay, so let me trick this up a little bit and put a couple of these things together. Okay, what if we have, 10 squared times 10 to the 4th, and then we cube it all. Oh yeah, babe, now we're cooking. Well, how's that going to work? Well, inside the parentheses, what are we going to have? We're going to add those exponents, so it'll be 10 to the 6th power, and then I'm going to cube it, and then when I cube it, I multiply the exponents, So that's going to be 10 to the 18th power. Okay? What if I have 10 to the 4th cubed times 10 to the 5th squared? Okay, well, it's just two little separate problems, and then I'm going to multiply them together. 10 to the 4th cubed becomes 10 to the 12th, right? I multiply those exponents. 10 to the 5th squared becomes 10 to the 10th. I multiply those exponents. Okay, but here I'm strictly multiplying the numbers, which means I'm going to add the exponents. So I'm going to get 10 to the 22nd power. Okay? Let's do another one here. Let's do 10 to the negative 2 raised to the negative 3rd times 10 to the 4th raised to the negative 1. Nothing we can't handle. 10 to the negative 2 raised to the negative 3 becomes 10 to the positive 6 times 10. This becomes 10 to the negative 4. And when I add them together, I get 10 to the positive 2. Okay? All good. Let's really trick it up. Let's really trick this one up. Let's do 10 to the 8th raised to the negative 2 times 10 to the negative 3rd raised to the negative 5th. And now let's put an outer exponent around all of that of negative 2. Okay? This is more messy than I'm sure anything in the book, but we can do it. I know we can. Let's see. Inside here, so we got some big old parentheses with a negative 2. We're going to worry about that at the end. Okay? Inside this parentheses, what's cooking here? I've got 10 to the 8th and then raised to the negative 2, so that's 10 to the negative 16th power times 10 to the negative 3 raised again to the negative 5, so that's 10 to the positive 15th power. Alright, now I'm just doing a straight multiplication in here, and when I do a straight multiplication, I'm adding the exponents, so that's 10 to the negative 1 power. And then that's raised again to the negative 2 power, so I'm going to get 10 to the positive 2. Alright, I think that's pretty good. Alright, that concludes section 5.5. We'll dive into section 5.6 on the next video.